All right, we are live. We are
We're
live
now.
What is episode? Is this episode 8?
Yeah, we're getting lost in it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We've
Episode
done
8.
so many.
2021. 12 hours of boom.
And we have Colin Keegan with us. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Well, thanks for having us.
Now, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say real quick, Colin Keegan is with Santa Fe Spirits.
Right.
And we reviewed a while back the Cole Keegan 10th anniversary single malt aged in, I think it was PX sherry casks, if I remember
PX
right.
sherry cask, yeah.
But we're here to talk about the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission.
The commission, baby.
And so we've got a few different American single malts up here.
Yes.
We're minus Stranahan's. We've got Westland somewhere here.
Yeah.
But we've got Del Bach, we've got Balcones, Westward. And we just want to talk about American single malts and the commission and kind of where's it at? How's things
of the
going?
commission, some people don't even know what it is.
What it is. Well, I can start from the beginning. Well, I can just dive in and rabbit on about the commission if that's good for everybody here.
Definitely.
American single. Oh, somebody else put Eric Waite put it straight up there. American Single Malt Whiskey Commission. So, gosh, it was 2015, I think it was. We were at a ACSA conference in Chicago, and it was actually Matt Hoffman who said, you know what, we've got to start putting this together. Those of you who know American Single Malts know Matt Hoffman of Westland fame. He sort of coerced and corralled us, and we thought, gosh, we're going to sit here and try and form a commission, and it's going to take us hours. Well, within about 45 minutes, we'd all agreed and we all had a whiskey in our hands and we finished with the meeting. So it was as simple as that. We all just want to play nice, you know. Actually, you know what? Talking of whiskey, I better join you. I'll be drinking my mainstay here.
Beautiful.
Keegan American Single Malt, which is a good example of why the commission works and is inclusive. Everybody laughs when I get on one of these calls with all the rest of the commission. I always want to say we're an inclusive group, not an exclusive group. Don't get me wrong. The Scottish Whisky Association, SWA, does great stuff, but they're an exclusive group of distillers. And you can't join unless name's Tavish McTavish or something. But, if you're here in America, we all seem to play nicer. So there's about 8 of us that all got together and started the commission. To be honest, it did lull for a while because everybody was trying to wait for everybody else to do all the work. But Steve Hawley, who's our current president, stepped up and has done a great job of writing the mission, writing the goals, and really working hard with getting us established. And I did have the website pulled up. No, I can't figure it out here, but our goal is to establish, promote, and protect American single malts. It's a very simple mission. And we're promoting in a good fashion. You'll see us at shows. And if you ever need us to come to shows or do anything, you'll always get 2 or 3 of us. Oh, thank you, Eric. Wait, he's posting all kinds of great lines that you can always Google and find out more.
Some days Eric is on it, and some days he's way out.
His nickname's the Sniper.
Apparently today Eric is he's with it.
It's like
really with it. Yeah, this is probably one of your early calls after a few tests, a few whiskeys, 8 or 10 shows in. A little change, I'm sure.
That's right.
So the commission has one big goal at the moment, and that is to get federal recognition, really, as a group of whiskeys, as a delineation. You've got bourbon, you've got rye, you've got American whiskey, sort of vague and out there. But it means a big thing for us when we can go into liquor stores and say, find us in the American single malt area. The little hanging signs that always seem to flap around in the wind, you can see them even for Japanese whiskey. There's like 4 in that section, but they don't have an American single malt section. So it's a big tag for us to get that one, put to bed, so to speak. And we are in review, which doesn't sound that impressive, but with the TTB, the Taxation Trade Bureau, that really is impressive. to actually be in review. It took us a couple of years to get on the agenda for review. And unless there's lots of people that pony up and send letters to the TTB, there's people without a life who actually write to the TTB, to be honest. Nobody really bothers, except unless you're trying to get something accepted. So unless anybody contradicts what we're looking for, we will be our own category, which would be great.
Yes.
We'll be able to talk about it and expand more. And one of the reasons is, I said there was 8 of us that started this about 6 years ago now. There's now over 200 people making American single malts.
Mm-hmm.
All mostly craft distilleries. The big guys are partnering with and or buying outright a lot of the American single malts that are doing well. You know, Remy Cointreau now owns Westland.
Yes.
Diageo is a partner in Westward. Proximo owns Stranahan's. High West are actually doing some great whiskies in their constellation. So we're obviously making some waves if all the big guys are getting involved. We are trying to put some guide rails on what we do. We're really not trying to narrow it as so much that we can't play within that category, because the people who started this are craft distillers, and they're an odd bunch. You know, they want to get out and play. And what happens if I make whiskey out of this? Or how does that work? Or age in something different, you know? So this is a good example. Our whiskey, I'm really not trying to just promote my own stuff, but it is a good example of an American single malt that we are allowed to age in new and used oak, which this is. And the grain is, some of it is smoked, which is a mesquite smoked single malt. You guys there, the panel there, know this well, but not everybody does. So we can experiment. We could age in half-size casks, much larger casks. We are saying it should be 1 grain, 1 distillery, which is the definition of a single malt, whether you're Scotland or Ireland or most places in the world. But really, there's not much more restrictions we're putting on people. If it's a single malt, it's got to be 1 grain, and you can't really add additives, you know? So it's going to be barley that we're all playing with because of the enzymes that are in barley that break down the starches and stuff. So I think that's a detailed enough rundown on the commission. Did you have questions?
No.
So if a new distillery starts up and they want to bottle something and label it an American single malt, they have to meet those right there, what you just said. It's got to be single malt from their distillery. It's got to be, it can be new or used barrels.
They would have to make it. They wouldn't be able to go to MGP, buy single malt, take it to their distillery, even age it or bottle it. It has to come from them.
See, I like that too. And then I know like Balcones is doing some 700-liter barrels, but they capped it at that because Scotch has capped it at that 700-liter mark.
Yeah. We what we did at the commission was we're really not trying to invent the wheel. I mean, I think bourbon has sort of narrowed its category, or did decades and decades ago. You know, has to be, you know, New American oak, has to be minimum 2 years, has to be 51% corn. Those are quite tight guidelines. We want to have them wide enough. You know, Balcones is smart to, you know, age in those large size casks. They can wait long enough for that to get the wood infusion. But what we're doing at the commission is really trying to sort of adopt a lot of the rules that are already there. You know, if you go to the TTB and say, oh, we want to change everything and we want to do this, we want to do that, and we want to do the other, they're going to start saying, oh, hold on. We can take one change at a time. And we could be here for decades trying to do that, you know? So we're trying to just, you know, use the rules and regs that whiskeys have already. And, you know, single malt scotches will do the, you know, the 700 liter. That's their cap. So we're following along suit.
Brilliant. And that whole idea of an American single malt as a category that can be sold abroad lets them know what they're bringing in as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, we've got enough restrictions, and we don't want to be the policeman of the American single malts across the US, but we will call other distilleries, and have done, you know, to other people who say, well, you know, I make it over there and I bottle it over here. Well, that doesn't work, you know. Oh, okay. And everybody's been playing nice. So I think what it's going to do is it's going to let them, as you say, know what they get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it'll be a good quality whiskey. I'm not saying they're all going to be to everybody's palate, because there's enough range there with me and my mesquite smoke and, you know, Westwood aging in Gariana oak. I humidify my warehouses. Balcones don't, and they have a similar climate. They do have a little bit of moisture. We're at 7,000 feet, and it's the desert, so we get no moisture at all, you know. 6 inches of rain a year doesn't produce much moisture. So, but they all fit in with that category, and they're all a little different, you know. What's his name? Randy over there, 888 over there at Nantucket. He's got a saltiness to his whiskey because he's aging feet from the ocean, you know. So we all, you know, we've got some differentiation there.
And that brings right into Eric Waite, almost like is he sitting in your house? How does he know you're about ready to answer? You've like answered this right before he asked it. So due to weather and climate, so of course he's talking most UK barley comes from the East Coast, particularly in England. Are there some prime regions in the USA for growing barley for malting?
Good question. And Eric's definitely right. If you look at a map, you just pull up a map of the whole UK. You know, the East Coast is nice and smooth and soft. The West Coast looks like a bunch of knife edges. Just gets the snot beaten out of it by the wind and rain and the sea and stuff. So here in the US, we have a lot more land mass, and barley's a soft thing. It does like its rain, and it doesn't mind a bit of wind, but it really doesn't like that, you know, ocean breeze beating on it all the time. So the middle of the country for the US is where the majority is grown, you know, that sort of, you know, the Midwest. The Midwest is very well known for grain. Although over there in Seattle, Washington area and Oregon especially, there's some good growing going on over there. Oh, that looks so happy that the commission, he wished for any contribution.
Oh, I talked about this. You guys were already up and running, but we were probably new enough for I started to find these American single malts, Stranahan's, Balcones, and I was just like, you know, I was like, man, this is awesome. It was it harkened back so much to Scotch whiskey, which is where I kind of lean. I think you do a little bit as well. But then it had that playful, bold, rebellious American spirit from all these different places, like Santa Fe Spirits, that I was like, man, this is a whole new playground to move around on.
It really is. It's a great playground to actually, you know, try different things. Everybody talks about Scotland and, you know, Islay, Highland, Lowland, Speyside, Campbelltown, etc. They're all a little different. And you can make a big difference with just different water. You know, we don't have enough peat here in the US. Well, there is some, but not enough to really use for smoking and stuff, and or to color the water. The water's the color of whiskey out there in Scotland. But I didn't really finish the question on the grain. Huge amount from the Midwest, but I mean, I know Westland and Westward are working with local farmers to keep it regional from their own home state. I believe Balcones does that with a lot of Texas barley as well. I couldn't speak for them, but here in New Mexico, we're trying. Our big issue is finding farmers that there's a lot less of it. There's only 2 million people in the whole state. So when you start scaling that down, we're big tequila states, a single malt small. As we get to scale, and also the brewers, we're hoping that New Mexico can actually grow some grain. Down south of our state, there's good irrigation down there, so they could work it that way. But you do need some humidity in the air as well. But it's the malting houses. It wouldn't be economical to make it here in New Mexico, ship it. We use Breese Malting House in Chilton, Wisconsin there to do the smoked malt, and BSG in Shakopee. So to ship it all the way there, then ship it back, just wouldn't work. So if we can do it all internally here in the state, it would be great. We're now, like, let's say post-COVID, we're coming out of COVID, let's put it that way. We all have a bit more bandwidth to start getting back to focus on those things. So we want to be like, you know, Westwood, Westland, Balcones, you know, the guys back east, etc. I think Randy has a specific, back there at 888 in Nantucket, he has a specific farmer that grows just grain for him, for his Notch whiskey, which is an excellent whiskey if you ever get some. So
wonderful.
Yeah,
that is great. Let me see what we got.
You said that you have humidifiers in your warehouses. What would happen if you didn't? What are you preventing there?
We're trying to work on reducing angel share, but not so much that we actually affect the aging and the evaporation. We lose at least 12% a year. Wow. Even in, it's a lot, even in a humidified warehouse. So people keep asking us, are you going to do a 10 or 12-year-old? We'd end up with about 2 glasses in the bottom of it. There'd be nothing left. So we're pumping the humidity a bit, and you will see some older single malts coming out, but as soon to reduce the headspace, you could top up with other whiskey, but then you can't put an age statement on it because it's not that single cask. Yeah. So it gets a bit complicated that way. But we're trying to keep our warehouse, although my distillers keep leaving the doors open, but there you go, at about 80 degrees Fahrenheit and sort of 50% humidity. Wow. We will raise and lower that to get those casks breathing a bit. We do have some experiments outside of that rick house to see just what our evaporation rate would be. And if it's not too much, we would actually stop it. I know Balcones doesn't heat and humidify. They definitely don't need to heat where they are, but humidity might be an issue.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Is there any other behind the scenes kind of work going on that we or most folks wouldn't be familiar with from the commission's point of view? What other things are you working on?
It really mostly is that TTB, Taxation Trade Bureau recognition, but we are, still working behind the scenes to do promotions. Although all of us, go out and promote our whiskeys separately, a lot of times we find ourselves sitting in the same room. If they say, oh, we're going to have like 5 single malts, you would get a lot of the same faces there. Mm-hmm. And we all really play nice together. We'd all like to elevate our category. People like Balcones do a lot of whiskeys. They've got all kinds of whiskeys. People like Westland specialize in single malt. Randy does brewing back there in Nantucket, does brewing and distilling, So we're all a little different the way we do stuff, but every time we get together, we keep pushing single malts forward. And we're always quite happy, weird though it sounds, sometimes not to see our bottle on the table, but to see our fellow distillers' bottles on the table. So I think what we are doing is working hard on promoting the category. Maybe not quite as much as our own brands. We've got to make a living, but very close behind, as a very close second.
Now, let's say the commission, and let's say everybody was there and you're all sitting down, and hypothetically, you have to trade one of your bottles for somebody else's. Which different distillery are you saying I got to trade with that distillery over?
Oh, now you put me on the spot. If any of my friends are listening, they're going to be on it. You didn't say mine,
You're breaking up.
I quite often trade with Balcones, and I really enjoy. They have a stronger, bolder feel to all their whiskeys. I quite enjoy that. Jared and I trade quite a bit. I do trade with Steve over at Westland.
Nice.
They'll send me 2 or 3 bottles, and I'll send them 2 or 3 bottles. Oh, we all, of course, we pay the taxes. No, we all just trade bottles directly. Copperworks, Jason, he's actually one of the executive board members for ACSA. For American Single Malt Whiskey Commission. He and I trade bottles quite often. There was 6 of us that did a vatted malt, which was interesting. I don't know if you got that from Lost Lantern. If you haven't had that,
no, we do have some of theirs.
Yeah, Lost Lantern vatted malt. So when we all went to that, we all took bottles to blend and taste. It was actually the ACSA conference. When we did that, we all left with each other's bottles. So we all left with 6 bottles of whiskey. So it lasted at least a few days after the visit,
Hey, what's ACSA?
Oh, sorry, American Craft Spirits Association.
Okay.
Right. Was that the group where we met at that one when we were at
no, that was the distillers.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
The ADI,
American Distilling Institute. They're all sort of playing in the same sandpit these days, you know. They're all different. So who else do I enjoy trading with? I will say, if Jake Holshoe's listening from Rogue Distilling, they make a great single malt. He owes me a bottle. I sent him one. He didn't send one back. I know it's a good whiskey, so I want my bottle.
There you go. Call it.
Call it. But Jake, if you're listening, I owe me a bottle.
There you go. I love it.
And who else? Oh, Headframe. John McKee at Headframe. He's got a nice single malt that he's doing there too. And there's a lot of good folks out there. We just had another release that's not a single malt, but I want to give it a plug right here, called Good Deeds Whisky. We're actually really working on some diversity in the distilling world, so they don't all walk and talk like me, middle-aged Anglo men. We're trying to get more people in our category, because we all are at the moment. Not all, but a lot of us are. So if any of your listeners want to Google Good Deeds Whisky, it's a fundraiser. It's a really good bottle of whiskey, by the way. Sealbacks sells it, online. And that's going to really help promote. Oh, yeah, we make an apple brandy as well. Thank you, Robert.
There you go. Now, you've got a little accent. Were you born outside of the States?
Yeah, I was born outside in New Mexico. I'm from West Texas, actually. No, I'm only kidding you. I'm like Northern England is where I'm from originally. Anybody travels enough, it looks like Eric Waite knows his way around the UK because he knows where the grain grows. Yeah, I'm east coast of England, about 60 miles south of Scotland, Newcastle, known for football hooligans and coal miners. So I left as fast as I could. But now it's they got a great soccer team.
Very nice. What brought you to the States?
Basically my wife. She's from California. She's from California, and we traveled around a lot when we were newlyweds, and I made the mistake of taking her to England in the winter. She nearly blew away, so she said, "No, I think we should get back to the US."
Beautiful.
Now, how much hands-on do you have with Santa Fe Spirits with the whiskeys?
As much as I can, to be honest. A lot of my job, it's still a business. So there's plenty of business, plenty of promotions. I'll be honest, I'm learning a little bit more about marketing, especially online marketing and e-commerce. So that's been taking me a lot of time, hopefully coming out of COVID as strong as we can. We just hired on a new distiller. Distillers are a bit like gypsies. They like to explore both in whiskeys and in distilleries. So if you can keep a hold of one for a long, long time, you're doing really well. Either that or they're married and they want to stay still. But we just hired Natalie Dale. She came from Coppola Winery, actually. She's got a great palate, and she was moving into distilling out of winemaking. And that was great fun to get back in there with her, mash in and, work through the stripping and the finishing runs and filling casks and aging casks and fermentations and getting my bags on and getting wet again. So I'm definitely in the distillery a lot, but I would say, 10%, 15% of my time is actually whiskey making or joining in on that stuff.
And are you strictly doing single malts? Or are you venturing into other types?
Well, you had that one brandy.
Yeah.
Outside, are you doing a bourbon, any bourbons, ryes?
No, we do like 9 different products. 4 of them are whiskeys. There's some 4 line extensions of the single malt there. The blue one that you got was a 10-year anniversary. Vodka, whiskey, brandy, gin. We're making those, but we are trying to refocus a lot more on the single malt. There's just a lot more want for it. It takes a lot longer to make. In doing that, we are not going to get into bourbon or to rye or other whiskeys. We might do some, playing around with a malted barley to do some other line extensions that wouldn't qualify as a single malt. finishing and, maybe blending with some other whiskey and stuff. Vatted whiskeys, that kind of stuff. But we wouldn't, with bourbon, obviously there's, different mashing and different categories that go in, and you have to heat it and sometimes work on the grain, sometimes off the grain. We have our single malt nicely streamlined, that all our production efforts are going into that. We're still a very small distillery in our case. And we like to get as big as some of our compatriots in our, single malt commission there.
What kind of casks are you working with, or would you like to work with more, or are you pretty happy with what casks you're using?
We're pretty happy with our casks. We age in the full size 53 gallon casks. We from our perspective, we think that is commensurate to making a good whiskey at our altitude, elevation, and lack of humidity. Ours is a minimum 3-year whiskey, and after 3 years, we think the flavor profile is right on.
That's kind of what I was wondering too. Just kind of what age are you really seeing the majority of your whiskeys, coming out at? I figure it's probably that 3 to 5 year range.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're exactly right there. So we average around 4.25 in years. We actually did a study recently and saw. So full-size 53-gallon casks, we keep them all the same so they rack easy and work easy together and stuff. We do the finishing. Here's one here. This is apple brandy cask finish. And Robert said, you make a great apple brandy. So when we age our apple brandy, we do that in 25-gallon casks. Those 25-gallon casks are what we finish the apple brandy cask finish in. So we do play with some half sizes. For us, we're not finding the flavor profile any smaller than that we like ourselves. I know there is people doing it. Good luck to them. They must be aging in a different way. Like a 700 liter. That's a big cask that Balcones are going to start playing with. So, good luck. Are you
using virgin oak, or are you using prior filled?
Yeah, we do 2/3 used bourbon casks, and 1/3 new oak. So 1/3 new American white oak, medium char and everything. And they all come from Kelvin Cooperage at the moment. We're very happy with the quality we get. We like working with them. We might start adding some independent stave as we grow. There is not a cask shortage, but they're not always the easiest to get a hold of.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think today's times casks are getting even harder to get, aren't they?
They are, as we all know, and we keep reading about, supply chains are difficult here, they everywhere. We're having trouble finding glass and cardboard and stuff. Kelvin Cooperage has been good to us. We haven't, called them and had them say, well, hold on, it's going to be a longer delivery time. They're right on it. And I haven't heard of other people having issues with their manufacturers yet. But as in the middle of COVID, we all sort of hunkered down a bit. I don't think anybody was pushing their production as hard as they could. Now we're coming back out, and there's a lot of new people started up.
Yeah,
it was a good time for people to start distilleries. I think you'll see a lot more, pull on the coopers and the cask makers.
Oh, we got a super chat.
Real quick shout out to Robert Primo here at Ring-a-Ding-a-Ling.
Yeah, 15.
He says, I'm dealing with alligators. Hardbag alligator.
Yeah.
Up to it at work today, but I had to duck in here to offer a wee token of thanks for bringing back the boom.
You're talking about like an alligator char? I mean, what are we doing? A real alligator.
Thank you, Robert.
That's a heavy char, an alligator char, yeah.
Oh, what the? Thank you.
A good question from Graham, just kind of wanting to know your background in distilling. And I'd even say, just how did you get into running the whiskey?
How did I get into it? Very short story to what really took a long time. We're 12 years old now at Santa Fe Spirits. I designed a house. I was an architect. Or it's like being an idiot. You're always an architect, like you're always an idiot, So I designed a house in an apple orchard. The project fell apart. My wife and I bought the apple orchard, moved in, and we were designing very big houses for people with lots of money. We designed a smaller house for us. We still live here, the apple orchard. I'm actually at home today, making apple brandy. Of course, being in high-end residential when 2008 and 9 came around, or 7, 8, and 9, nobody needed a second house on a golf course or anything like that. So I had a lot of time on my hands and turned a hobby into a bigger hobby. I was making apple brandy, and somebody said, "Oh, I'll buy a bottle." I thought, well, okay. At that point, I realized, oh my God, I'm a moonshiner. I better stop this. Oops, because when I researched it, it's like home brewing, isn't it? No, it's not. Oh. You can ferment at home, but you can't distill at home. Not without a license, anyway. So I went off, got a license, bought a building, bought a still, and I was spending enough money. My wife did say, "What's the plan to all of this?" So I started scribbling out a plan and realized not enough people drink apple brandy. So I decided to go to my real love, which was whiskey, and started dabbling around making single malt. Once we got the building and the still together, and after a couple of years, we had a good flavor profile with a mesquite smoke to differentiate us from others, keep it regional. There's a lot of mesquite out here in New Mexico, like Texas and Arizona and places like that. And it kind of took off from there. So it was, apples to apple brandy, and then realizing, gosh, I got to make some money at this. So
a love for whiskey from Scotch.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's funny. My love was Scotches, but I didn't really get into it until I moved over here to the US. When I was back in England, I was mostly a student. I left when I was 25. I didn't have any money. So I was buying the blends and couldn't really figure out what all the fuss was around. And then I started tasting single malts and realized, that's why single malts are much better than blends in my book. And I wouldn't tell anybody else how to drink. But I think single malts really have a much better taste.
Well, and you briefly kind of touched on it with the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission, but you guys didn't want those tight regulations of what bourbon has and saying, we want you to use this mash bill, or it has to be this amount of grain,
or only virgin
oak. And I think that's what I like with Scotch and you as well.
The play.
It's being able to play around and do different things. I mean, there's still some looser regulations controlling it, but overall they're allowed to do a little bit more than what we see in the bourbon industry.
Oh yeah. Well, and then the American side is really wide open with what you've got. I mean, I think that was some of the concern we'd heard from fans, was they were worried that somehow the legislation for an American single malt was going to restrict.
Yeah.
And it's really just that guide, so everybody, in my opinion, knows what it is that they're getting, but there's so much movement inside there.
Yeah.
That everything can kind of have its moment in the light.
No, you're exactly right. That's really what we're trying to do, is put guardrails on, but not a box around it and restrict it, Some guardrails so everybody knows, it's a single malt, an American single malt as well. It'll be good. Like I was just talking about, Scottish single malts. They're great. For me, the blend, not so. It's for mixing with soda, in my case.
Yeah.
The blend is not the single malts,
Right.
You try some Compass Box blends. They're pretty good.
There's somebody who's really gone off on a tangent, and that's an exciting part of the category we're seeing. Compass Box really sort of led the way on that. Try some of the Lost Lantern stuff, and even what's his name, Joe Beatrice from the Bourbon Project here. I think is still what he's called. He is doing some single malts and stuff too, and some blending. It's exciting because there's a lot of great whiskey out there to play with now.
Oh yeah. That's what's so neat. Yeah, when John Glazer started doing these blends, like how a chef would plate food. I mean, it was just the artisticness to it, the bottle, the label, the what spices almost that he's bringing in from different distilleries and then putting out. It was like, wow.
No, I agree entirely.
Talking about corn and Scotch, but Top Shelf Dustin says only this much corn ? Scotch is 100% malt. No, it's not. Common misconception. For a single malt, it's 100% malt, but you can have a grain Scotch whiskey.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be single malt or
Well,
malt.
exactly. You can, exactly. And a lot of the blends will use a very powerful single malt Scotch that there's plenty of. Like Chivas is a good example. It's a blend of stuff. There's plenty of corn whiskey in there, neutral grain spirit, depending which way you want to look at it. And then flavored with some stronger whiskeys in the back.
Yeah, and we've had some great blended grains.
Well, not even blend, but a single grain whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, again, Compass Box did their double single, right? Wasn't that what it was called?
Well, it's 2 single malts. So.
Okay, that's right. That was 2 singles. Hello, double single. But what did they do was 100%.
He uses some grain whiskeys. I think he's used some Port Dundas. That's the only one. I'm sure there's others in there that he's used that are grain whiskeys.
Yeah.
Grain Scotch whiskeys.
Right.
But you wouldn't be able to call it a blended malt whiskey. It would be a blended Scotch whiskey.
Well, I mean, obviously, Johnny Walker, that's blended all the way. And look at the size of that brand. It's obviously, they wouldn't last if they weren't good whiskeys. It is something that we as distillers talk a lot about. We sort of re-energized and brought a lot of health and vitality back to a category of alcohol that was already very strong. Jack Daniels is a good whiskey. Beam's a good whiskey. Wild Turkey's a good whiskey. They're all good. We're going off in a different direction. To my mind, in a lot, some of them better, not all of them. But with beer, when they reinvented beer, there wasn't any good beers around. Don't get Budweiser and Coors, fair enough. It was very limited. And and then now look, there's 4,000 IPAs on the market.
Oh yeah, when their whole marketing was, this is the coldest beer. What?
Yeah, beer. Nothing to do with taste. It's all to do with temperature. Yeah,
I know. And it's cold. It's cold here. We keep it cold. I'm like, what the heck? How about
what are you talking about? Yeah.
Give me a steak. It's the coldest steak you'll ever have. What?
There you go.
With a Zima.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't brought up Zima yet.
Yeah, the Zima.
Zima was another one. Yeah, that was somebody trying to make something out of nothing.
We used to tease that. Bart used to when we first got started doing reviews. Bart would tease me that Scott drinks Zima.
Yeah,
which I didn't.
Right. No, but it was just it was good to say what he'd go. You know what this reminds me of? I go, that Zima you like to drink all the time. You're like, oh my god.
3 or 4 years ago, Zima reintroduced. They came back with a limited run and remade Zima.
We take credit.
We had to pick up some and have it on a couple
we did our
shows.
5-year anniversary. We bought a bunch of Zima and brought it in for everybody.
Yeah. The box is still over there. I see.
Yeah, the box. Well, and several bottles had a single sip taken out of them as well.
Oh, dear.
People are like, what are you guys handing us? Zima.
Yeah. Zima. Oh, dear.
Oh, my goodness. What do we have? Yuri here. What is he? I guess I should read here. Loch Lomond coffee still grain is okay. What is he saying here? Loch Lomond coffee still single grain is a great example. Yes.
Yeah.
So perfect. Back in the 60s, my family drank Stroh's. Way to go, Vorpal. There we go. So that was in the Zima chat.
Graham Fraser points out a couple others Graham Fraser points out a couple of that John Glazer sources from, I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shorten it up and it's not getting shortened up. Cambus and Carsbridge are 2 other grain whiskeys that John Glazer has sourced.
You guys know a lot. You've got a lot more details than I follow these days. I guess I'm too busy making the stuff, man.
Oh, the fans. That's what we love. Yeah. We are literally the Scotch Test dummies. The fans know everything.
We're not afraid to say we don't know something and then ask the audience or the fans and say, what is the deal with this?
And then there's always somebody that knows.
Answer. Me too.
Yeah.
So you're doing a whole bunch of these videos back to back. You're on this for 12 hours today?
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
I know. This is we missed last year. Last year Scott in October had COVID.
Oh, right.
And then I got it in November. So and with July and everything that was going on, we usually try to do one a year. So we'll do
just once a year.
Yeah, once a year, 12 hours of boom, and we'll do 12 segments. We usually open by ourselves, 10 guests, and then we close with us, and we've got a guy that comes on the show. He sings, and another guy plays guitar, and we'll end out at the fire pit outside.
Oh, smashing!
Yeah, just kind of hang out, and then sometimes we've had enough that we all sing. That's always entertaining.
Oh, good. There you go. Especially after 12 hours of boom.
That's right. Yeah, and then what we've learned is pacing. The first year, I think I was about 9 shows in. I'm like, man, I don't know if I can make it to 12. So the pacing we learned a little bit, but even the second year we're out at the fire pit and it's like, wow, we had another great show. Next thing you know, I'm drinking a couple of high proofs. Well, I'd forgotten the tank was already full. Hello. And I'm putting just a couple more in, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I just got hit with a bat.
That felt that last one. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I was like, man, I messed it up right at the end. I was the pro until the last show.
Until the last one. As long as you can make it till the end, you're okay. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. So, all right, let's see what else. Any other questions?
How often does the ASMWC meet? And are you guys doing that virtually then? Now, are you guys meet in person?
We've been doing it virtually. We are going to meet at the ACSA conference because a lot of the commission are members of the American Single Malt Whisky Commission. A lot of the members of American Craft Spirits Association as well. We're very similar groups with different missions, you know. Theirs is lobbying for direct-to-consumer and federal excise tax reductions and stuff. So we all go there. That'll be live when we meet. But yeah, we meet about once a quarter actually, as a group, and then the board meets about once a month.
Good.
Yeah. And, you know, moving things forward and trying to get some shows put together. And, you know, we'll all show up in the same town and promote some whiskeys.
Perfect. Love it.
We'll come down and see you sometime.
Well, and likewise, if we're ever in your area, we'll let you.
Everybody's always welcome to Santa Fe. Mention Scotch Test Dummies and we'll give you a private tour of the distillery. No problem.
Love it.
You bet.
Yeah, we got to go on the road.
Yeah.
I've been teasing him that, see, I don't travel well. I'm 6'6". I don't know. I'm like a short haul traveler. But I had this idea that we would get some kind of like medium-sized mobile home looking thing.
You called it a van, but you mean
an
RV.
Yeah, I don't fit in a van, so I need an RV. But then we would go take the show on the road and hit a couple places. It'd be great.
It wouldn't be good.
Oh, he doesn't want to live with me. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be good.
It'd be perfect. It'd be perfect. But I'm not retired. You are.
I did. Yep. I am now.
Yeah. So, well, very good.
Yep.
Well, Colin, anything else? We're about to hit that time. Anything else you want
to add? At the time, I'm happy to answer any last questions if there is any. I think I talked enough about the commission. I didn't want to bore everybody, but you can Google us on the website, and Eric Weiss put it up there, and it's an easy link to American Single Malt Whisky Commission. It explains all about it, what we do and how we're about, et cetera, et cetera. You can even get into the details of what the rules and regulations are. But
perfect. Jesse says thanks, Colin, and cilantro.
And likewise, I've got my whiskey here.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you.
Colin, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Cheers, and we'll talk soon.
You bet.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in.
That's it. Scotch it, you Scotch gods.
Cilantro.
Cheers, guys. How do I exit this?
Cheers. Thank you.